The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, thinking they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
Must say it was one of the better tweets I've had in a while. Nikki Javala, now The Athletic, put this out shortly before the game. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell is here at the Giants-Commanders game. To which I responded, good, he deserves it. And look, I get paid to watch games. It's a great gig most of the time. I think yesterday I earned my money. Two bad football teams playing in bad weather in front of a really bad crowd, which got worse as the game evolved. And finally, the Commanders trying to give it away, failed to do so, and they get their first win since 3 weeks before Halloween. Yeah, October 5th was the last time they won a game. They beat the Chargers. Chargers can be in the playoffs. And Commanders finally get a win. Was it a good win? You know, we could debate that. They dropped from 6 in the draft order to 8. I don't know how much difference that makes. Their chances of winning any of the last 3 probably aren't great. Philadelphia can lock up the division with a win here on Saturday. The Cowboys may be out of it, but they're so much better offensively against a defense that's really hurting right now. They got a couple of good performances from backup guys yesterday, but they are depleted. And God bless Bobby Wagner, who now has his MBA from Howard, and it's time to put it to use. When they put him one-on-one with a back coming out of the backfield, he's cooked. It is a bad football team right now, and all the credit to Dan Quinn for keeping things together. The brotherhood that he talks about, I think that was somewhat evident yesterday because that was, it was a game that they easily could have packed it in for. I mean, you go up there and it's 29 degrees and you look up in the stands and there's nobody there, and the few that are there are rooting for the Giants, and the Giants have an interim coach who's maybe trying to stay, although if you watch some of his decision making, I don't think that's going to happen. And it just had a feel of so many Decembers around here. Like, okay, playing out the string. At least there is the hope, though, that Jaden Daniels comes back and has a healthy year next year, and Adam Peters does what he needs to do, and he needs to get more draft picks. They only have 5 picks, so wherever they're picking in the first round, whether it's where they are now 8, whether they move up or move down, it's going to be somewhere in the top half of the first round. You got to trade that pick. You got to trade that pick to a quarterback-desperate team, if there are still quarterbacks on the board where they pick, and get more players. They need more players. That's obvious. And the patchwork that Peters did last year was great. It paid off. But, Zach Ertz has probably played his last game in the NFL. Bobby Wagner, by the time the season ends, will have played his last game. The Marshawn Lattimore experience was a very bad one. Traded draft picks for a guy who didn't play well and then got hurt. You got to move on from those things. And it's not a total rebuild, and the reason it's not a total rebuild is because you have one of those guys. And I couldn't help thinking about this yesterday watching Jackson Dart play. It's only his second game back from a concussion, and in a key fourth-quarter drive where they have a chance to really change the complexion of the game, they have it deep in Washington territory, he goes out and has to be checked in the medical tent because the referee suspects he suffered another concussion. Now, they cleared him to come back later in the drive, but if he stays in there the whole time and doesn't have to come out of the game for 3 plays and doesn't come back for 4th down, I think they get it in the end zone. And I'm just thinking about watching Jackson Dart and not even seeing Jaden Daniels in the game at all. And they could be 2 guys who, match up twice a year as the years go by in the NFC East with both their teams jockeying for playoff position. But if they can't be on the field, it's not any good. And that's the real hope next year, that both of them learn how to protect themselves, because it'd be a real shame to waste that kind of talent. What we saw from Daniels was spectacular, and I don't want to hear any more RG3 comparisons. Not the same thing. His downfall, RG3, was because he wasn't in the tape room at 5 o'clock in the morning watching tape. This is a different cat, but he also has to learn how to protect himself, as does Jackson Dart. I think Dan Quinn said it best yesterday after kind of a minute of dancing around here, that this was a game that was harder than it should have been. And without the Jeremy McNichols fumble and the Marcus Mariota fumble in the fourth quarter, they win this comfortably. And in both cases, it was a clear go-down situation. Don't fight for yardage. That's the new tackling technique. In fact, there's a very good story in the Post last week about Peanut Tillman. Peanut Tillman played for the Bears, I think 11 years, 12 years, and wanted to go into the FBI and did after he finished playing because his father had worked in the FBI, and he's since left. But he's the one that developed the peanut punch, and that's what they teach now. If you're struggling for yardage, you're instructed to get to the ball carrier. The ball carrier's struggling for yardage, get to him and punch the ball out. And in both cases, it was just so foolish for those two guys to be fighting at that point. Go down, and either punt, or I think in the case of the one with Mariota, they were in field goal range. Don't do that. Just don't do that. But here's Quinn summing it up. A win that they get for the first time since October, winning in New York 29-21.
Man, more than anything, it was cool to see the win in the locker room, what it was, because that part is probably the best part of the game. The locker room after the win, and so we haven't had a lot of that. And so you never want to take that for granted. I mean, I even said it tonight. Take a few extra minutes. It's worth it. The guys have off tomorrow with a early week. I want them to enjoy it, and then we'll plenty to get back to Tuesday. But there's a lot of guys that I'm excited about. I'm excited about linebackers who are young and have space. I'm excited to see, like you're talking about, running back and other spots. But more than anything, the complimentary football, to see that today, at the end of the half, that was significant. And I thought that was the game. We've got to be so much better at the ball. To have 4 fumbles and win the game, holy guys, right? I could be standing here talking about the ball and what was disappointing about that and not. And so we've got to get that part of our football in order. But, man, was I pleased to see some big plays and big moments, like I referred to on the Terry catch on the touchdown, the Mikey interception, the 4th down stops. Those are game changers. But we made it harder than it had to be. That's for sure.
Amen to that. Amen to that 100 times over. Marcus Mariota, who did make it more interesting than it should have been at the end of the game, saying this.
Unbelievable. There's nothing like a winning locker room. And our guys, all 3 phases, found a way to make big plays today. And just a credit to those guys. Like we talked about all week, it's never easy at this point in time with what's going on in our season. But those guys continue to fight, continue to battle, and truly appreciate who this group is, and we'll just keep finding ways to get better.
After last week, how important was it to have a game to win?
Yeah, I mean, just to put it into perspective, it's hard to go 2 months without winning a football game. And for our guys to be able to put that aside, fight all week, and knowing it was going to be a division opponent on the road. Games like this are never easy. Weather was tough, windy, cold, snowy. So many reasons, so many things for guys to not show up and play, and our guys found a way today, and just appreciate them for that.
And in big plays made. Mariota threw for 211 yards. That's not bad, especially in awful weather conditions like that, but it was only 10 completions. He was 10 of 19, 211 yards, helped by big plays, including the 51-yard touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin. But with a chance to salt it away, he did what he has done just too many times.
Yeah, I have to find ways to stop with these. I literally have probably one play a game where it's just I need to take care of the football. And it was a moment where got out of some pressure. I saw Debo in the flat. He was uncovered. Try to reach to throw it, and I don't know if his hand got it or something happened where it hit it. Those are things that I just got to continue to work on. I feel like that's stuff in my game that if I can eliminate those things, I can help this team win.
Yeah, live to fight another day. He simply dropped the ball. It wasn't knocked out of his hand. He's bad weather, football's cold, hands cold, even though he's got a hand warmer on. It's not a situation where you need to be reckless with the football, which is what he was. And maybe those kind of plays have defined his career. He was just like Jaden Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner, number 2 pick of the draft, supposed to be the future of the Tennessee Titans. And here he is. Not a bad life, making $10 million a year to be a quarterback in the NFL. But, that's probably the story of his career, the bonehead plays here and there, and that was a real bonehead play yesterday. Also what you saw, and I think we've been limited somewhat this year because of injury, what a difference Terry McLaurin makes on the field. Now, the contract dictates that he's coming back next year. There's no real off-ramp, and he's really got to have a big year. He's got to have a year probably like last year, next year, if they wind up keeping him for the second year of the contract extension. But he will be back next year for the big money that he signed for. And, the question is going to be off this year, will he make a difference being a participant in all of the training camp practices? He didn't participate in a single practice this year because of the contract situation. And might that make a difference in terms of health for next year? We'll find out. He'll be 31 years old, and there aren't that many receivers of that age who are impact guys. But right now, he is clearly an impact guy and was an impact player yesterday with the 51-yard touchdown catch. He also caught 2 more passes for a total of 69 yards. And, this is a guy who has seen many seasons like this. This is season number 7 for him, and this is the 6th one. Well, I guess he did make the playoffs in his second year, but it was a losing year. They were 7-9. So of these 6 seasons outside of the magical year of last year, they have been losing seasons. And so he knows what this is all about, and he knows what teams are going through at this stage of the year with this kind of record now, 4-10.
We get 17 games for a reason, and if you're in a position to continue to fight, then you need to do that. We got nobody in that locker room that's going to lay down. It's just good to come out here as a team and get a team win. You forget what that feeling is like when you've been on a losing streak like we have, but when you come in here and you get a win in a tough place to win. I played here a lot of times, and it always comes down to the fourth quarter. That's how the NFC East games go. So you definitely feel good because, all the work you put in this past week, the times that we've lost, like, you get a win and it feels good. So we got to find a way to harbor that feeling. Figure out a way offensively just to take care of the football better at the end, so we could put away teams instead of letting them hang around. But we'll take this win and we're going to come back better next week.
There have been years where this team has had long losing streaks, and you've seen the locker room. Yeah. Locker room.
Yeah.
What is it about this group that keeps everyone together?
Honestly, like, the locker room we have is really close, and I've been on quite a few teams here that the season hasn't gone how you want to, and with this team, it's so unique. I think we come in each and every day and just love coming to work together. Like, you still see guys playing cards in the locker room, you still see them hanging out after workouts, getting together in the cold tub in the training room. So guys love being around each other, and when you got a lot of selfless guys who are going to be willing to put it on the line for 17 weeks or sometimes even more, you're going to have ups and downs, but I think it's just a group that loves to play football together. I think, DQ does a great job of just making sure we're focused on the right things. And there's never felt like an emotional letdown, like our season is over, let's just hang it up. Like, I've never felt that from this locker room, and it's a testament to the leaders we have. And, I think we got to find a way to get another one. You know what I mean? Like, when you get a win, it's an addicting feeling. When you lose, it sucks, especially as much as we've lost. But today we won, and we're going to enjoy it and get back ready for next week.
Yeah, they lose the turnover battle again, 2-1. They were not good on third down, 3 for 11. Penalties, 11 for 67. I mean, there was a lot of sloppiness in this game, and they still overcame that. And they won on the road, and when you get to this point in the season, and the season is lost, and you can't even have a winning record, even if you win out, you look at yourself and go, gee, where was this the entire season?
I know we all feel that way. It's not where we want to be as a collective season, but one thing that I've realized, as hard as the season has been, you got to enjoy those moments when you win. It's really hard to win in the NFL. And then when you come in December football, you know it's going to be physical and tough. In the NFC East, we couldn't allow what happened last week to affect this week. And I think that's the most thing that I'm proud of. We came out physical, playing ready for 4 or 5 quarters if need be. And it just feels good to win. So we were just in there enjoying the moment. And we're going to enjoy it on the way home and then get back ready for next week for a good Philly team coming in to our place. So it's kind of a short week, but when you have a win like that, it could help you propel you into a good week going into next week.
Yeah, a couple of real positives, and I don't know, how much you take from this because his 2 big games have been against the Giants this year, but Bill Krosky-Merritt, who, by the way, was called by Rob Gronkowski at half, Bill Croxy Smith. I mean, you don't have much to say. You might take advantage of your big research department there and actually find out the guy's name. But the fact that he had a game yesterday that you'd been hoping to see most of the year, like he had his big games early on. The last time he had scored a touchdown was also the last time they had won a game against the Chargers in L.A. in early October. But he had 18 carries for 96 yards, 16-yard touchdown run. And if they can count on him next year, that is a very good and very cheap option. But remember, also in week 1, which was his coming out party, he had 10 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown and had a couple of other good games and basically in the middle of the season disappeared and kind of ignited the losing streak, though Jaden Daniels took the blame for the fumble. But with a chance to put the Bears away in that Monday night game, he fumbled. And that's where all this began. So I don't know how much you read into what he did yesterday, but it was a good day for Bill. As far as Josh Connerly goes, that's the best and the worst. I made a comparison on Twitter during the game to Sharp Bordanish because he had 2 big penalties on one drive. He got beaten like a drum a number of times, but he did recover 2 fumbles. So even with the 2 turnovers that Washington had, the fumble that was from the quarterback and the running back, he at least did his job. Also, they're looking for players for next year. So I wouldn't have been able to name him in the difference between Alexander Hamilton and Antonio Hamilton. But Antonio Hamilton had a good day yesterday. Helped limit Giants receiver Darius Slayton to just 4 catches for 53 yards and had a couple of pass deflections. So they're looking for players next year. Maybe Hamilton is one of them. They got a punt return for a touchdown by Jalen Lane, and that is a guy who they are going to be really dependent on to stay healthy in the years to come, because that's a position that's always in flux, and to have a guy you can count on like that with speed is going to be huge. He's the first Washington player to get 2 punt returns for touchdowns since Brian Mitchell did it in 1994. I should point out, too, 1994 was also a 3-13 season under Norv Turner, but that's huge, and I think Brian Mitchell should be in the Hall of Fame. We're not going to put Jalen Lane there yet, but that's a big thing as well. And as far as taking care of the Giants twice in a season, it's amazing how rarely this has happened. They did it 4 consecutive games between 1998 and 2000, and then they swept them in 82 and 83. 82 was a strike year, so they only played 9 games. I guess they played the Giants twice. Yeah, the most famous game of that year was Mark Mosley kicking the winning field goal to beat the Giants in the snow and clinch the playoffs. And it also set the record, which is such a quaint record. I believe it was like 21 consecutive field goals. Now if you're not making 21 consecutive field goals in a season, you're out of the league. But at that time, it set the record. And the famous picture of a very muddied Joe Theismann hugging Mark Mosley after the kick and the snow falling and the team going to the playoffs, and they ultimately went on to win the Super Bowl. A big moment in team history. The Neil Diamond song about the frog who dreams of being a king and then became one? How about Phillip Rivers, a couch potato a week ago yesterday, nearly a winner on the road against a good team yesterday? It actually happened. From the couch to the playing field for a team that's fighting for the playoffs. It's a remarkable story and one that we'll look back on as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
So imagine a month ago, you're sitting on a bench waiting for a bus, sitting in the park, and some guy sits down next to you and says, I know a lot about the NFL, and I can tell you this. When the playoffs begin, Patrick Mahomes isn't going to be in them, and I believe Phillip Rivers has a real shot. That's where we are right now. It's kind of a long shot for Rivers, but he's got a much better chance of being in the playoffs than Patrick Mahomes because the Chiefs aren't going to be in the playoffs, and sadly, Mahomes isn't even going to be available for the last 3 games. The team has confirmed that he suffered a torn ACL in yesterday's loss to the Chargers, losing at home 16-13. And this, I'm sure, is being bandied about at the water cooler at work. It's making the rounds around here. These playoffs, these 2025 playoffs, are actually beginning in January of 2026. They will be the first playoffs that won't include either Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, or Peyton Manning since my first thought was, Manning suffered a torn ACL in 2000. Brady suffered a torn ACL in 2000. No, last time this happened was 1998. And, of course, Mahomes wasn't in the league then, and Brady wasn't in the league then. He was still at Michigan, and it was the rookie year for Peyton Manning, and that's the last time that we had playoffs that didn't include one of the 3, which tells you just how important a great quarterback is. 2 of them are in the Hall of Fame, or Brady will be as soon as he's eligible, and Mahomes is going to get there one day, even if he never takes another snap. But the eeriness of this ACL injury with Brady is remarkable. Mahomes is now in his 9th season, and he's coming off a Super Bowl loss. Tom Brady, to start the 2008 season, it was the first game of the year, which obviously helped him for a return for the following year. He was ready to go, but they had just lost to the Giants in the David Tyree helmet catch game, going for an undefeated season, going for 19-0. So you think of his back-to-back games, losing the Super Bowl, the incredible disappointment, and he's, to this day, says that's his most disappointing loss ever, losing to the Giants in that game. And then the next game that he plays, he tears his ACL out for the season. At that point, with both the tears, the 2 quarterbacks had won 3 Super Bowls. Amazing. And after Brady returned, he won 4 more. And he did go through that long stretch where he went 9 years without winning one. What we got, and I think that's going to really be the story of Mahomes too, is the Chiefs are going to have to reload. Kelsey will be gone. I don't know how much longer Andy Reid sticks around. There's going to be a changing of the guard, but as long as you have that guy, as long as you have the GOAT at quarterback, you're going to have a chance. And if you go back to the Chiefs in the mid-'90s, they didn't have a great team, but Joe Montana still had enough left in the tank after basically being shoved out of San Francisco to make way for Steve Young, that he took the Chiefs to the AFC Championship game. So this is not the end of the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. It's the end of this current dynasty. But don't close the book on Mahomes, who is at the crossroads that Brady was at when he tore his ACL and he went on to win 4 more. That's not to say that Mahomes is necessarily going to win 4 more, but the fact that the injury occurs at the exact same time of their careers, I think, is something that's kind of eerie to look at. This is really eerie. This Phillip Rivers thing. As I watched his news conference last Wednesday, I was counting his chins. And he was even asked about his weight, and he kind of made a joke about it. Guys know where I am. I couldn't move anyway before the last time I played, and he said he didn't know his weight. If he did, he certainly wasn't going to reveal it. And just watching him warm up, his belly didn't even look like Sonny Jurgensen's. It looked more like Richie Pettibone as a coach. But he got out there, and God bless him. Ken Ahura, the guy got out there a week after sitting on his couch watching football. And he said it, and I think a lot of us felt it watching the game. Yeah, his numbers weren't terrific. He doesn't throw a deep ball very well anymore. He's accurate, though, and he gets rid of the ball. He was 18 of 27 for 120 yards and a touchdown, and then ended the game with an interception. And I think that told you all you needed to know about his arm, is that he really can't chuck it down the field at this point. But he can manage a game. He knows what he's doing. He can still play quarterback, and they got a shot. They're not out of it yet. In fact, the Monday night game a week from tonight is going to be very interesting. I hope they're doing a Manning cast for this, because the Colts are going to be home against the 49ers. And what happened in the 2004 draft? We had a swap of quarterbacks. Remember, Eli Manning didn't want to go to the Chargers, or his family didn't want him to go there. And Phillip Rivers was taken by the Giants, I believe, at 4. So they just made a swap, and Rivers had his career with the Chargers, and Eli went on to win 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. So I'll be interested to hear his commentary, watching somebody from his draft class back on the field after 5 years and certainly not embarrassing himself. They've also got a game with Jacksonville. Jaguars are playing really well now. I don't know, take out what they did against the Jets, who are barely an NFL team now, but they're going to be in the playoffs. They've got 10 wins. And then they close the season against Houston, and Houston right now holds the 7th seed. The Colts hold the 8th seed. So that could, if things continue like this for the next couple of weeks, the Colts are going to have to win. But it's possible that we'll have the Texans and the Colts playing for that last playoff spot on Sunday night. To be in this spot a week after sitting on his couch, 5 days after signing with the Colts, and taking it really down to the last minute of the game, even getting a field goal to go ahead with less than a minute to go, you can't blame him for saying it does feel like a dream.
Felt a little bit of a dream, honestly. It's like I've stood right here before, but it was, in 2018. But I hadn't been in an NFL stadium like that, in the center of it, calling the play, obviously. Well noted in a long time. But, again, thankful to have been a part of it, disappointed that we didn't find a way to get it done.
Yeah, it is well noted. That's been the talk of sports since he signed a week ago today. Since we found out that he had gotten a tryout and they were going to bring him in and he was going to be, as the week unfolded, the starting quarterback, people went, oh, my God, this is the craziest thing. This is as crazy as Jeff Saturday coming from TV to coach the Colts. No, that was insane. This was kind of crazy, though, and it was kind of crazy. And listening to him transitioning from fan to player in a matter of days, he didn't use the term that Scott Hansen uses on the Red Zone channel when they get to the window for the 1 o'clock games at like 3-something, and then the window for the late games at 6-something, the witching hour. He didn't use that term. But this is Phillip Rivers describing, as a fan, the witching hour of the NFL as a former and now current NFL player.
And this is a one-score league. That's what it is. I mean, you look across the league every Sunday. I've been doing it as a fan for the past 4.5 years, and at in Central Time, which we are, at about 3 o'clock, you're scrambling to find which 3 games are coming up, 4 or 5 games that are coming down to the wire, and then you look right back up at 6:15, and here they're coming back down to the wire, and then you watch the Sunday night game. I've been doing it for 14 weeks, and now I was right smack dab in the middle of one with 50 seconds left.
Yeah, it's the stuff of a movie. It's one more shot. What's that movie with Kurt Russell and Robin Williams where they want to replay the high school game where Robin Williams dropped the game-winning touchdown pass? It's not quite that, but it's got elements of that. It really does. It's just crazy when you think about it, and it's crazy to think about a 44-year-old man who had already played 17 years in the NFL, was never mobile even when he played, even early in his career, and to enjoy this part of the game.
My wife always tells me I'm crazy because there's been times in the last 3 or 4 years I said, I kind of wish I could just throw one and get hit hard. And she's like, you're that's not normal. But so I didn't mind that part. The one with the bobble snapper deal didn't feel great, but the other ones kind of got me going in the game. It actually didn't feel too far off. It was kind of crazy how normal it felt once we got going in the game.
Yeah, getting smacked around by guys young enough to be your sons. Tom Brady told a story on the pregame show because the crew was in Los Angeles to do the Rams and the Lions game yesterday. They were able to bring Brady into the studio for the pregame, and he talked about that he had a 18th birthday for his son, and a bunch of his high school buddies were out there, and they were just, fooling around in the backyard. And he said, yeah, I'll throw a few. And he got picked off by an 18-year-old. And that's Brady has only been out for a few years. He played, this is last year, 2023 or maybe 2022 was his last year. And this is Rivers, who hadn't played since the 2020 season. So, and here he is back there, no real ramp up to it. Whatever kind of shape he was in didn't look great. He may have been okay in shape, but there was also a point in the game where they were working on his shoulder. Looked like he might have suffered a shoulder injury. Came back in the game, has that weird push motion on the ball, but got it done. And right now, it's a really good story with a week of practice and a win against the 49ers on Monday night at home. Then things get nuts. And here is his kind of pump the brakes on that idea, but not ruling it out.
If I can stay healthy, like I feel good, and it's going to get better as we go. But the catch in that is we got to win. It doesn't really matter if it's getting better as we go if we don't win, because it's going to be over in 3 weeks. So that's the catch there, but it's going to continue to get better. I mean, this was obviously the first one. We're talking about 3 days of practice. But again, it was a real blessing to be back out there with the guys. But obviously this is about the Colts and the Seahawks, and we didn't find a way to get it done. And certainly a few plays here and there I'd like back. But all in all, we just didn't find a way.
Hall of Fame resets. He was one of the semifinalists for the Hall and was due to be voted on at the weekend of the Super Bowl. Now that gets pushed to 2031. That's one thing. But here's something else to consider. Let's say he gets the Colts into the playoffs. Let's say that happens. And even if they don't win a playoff game, and I believe they're going to bring Daniel Jones back next year, you bring the two of them back. Would you think about that? He certainly is going to have to be open to it, because nobody would have expected this. And I was talking last week about the Steve DeBerg comparison. I didn't hear a lot of talk. Frankly, I'm the only one I've noticed talking about it. I didn't hear anybody else say this. Steve DeBerg, same thing. Been out of football for 5 years. Dan Reeves was the coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Chris Chandler got hurt. He needed a quarterback. And DeBerg had played for him with the Denver Broncos when they had John Elway, and he brought him back in after 5 years, and he made only one start, just like Rivers so far has only made one start. I looked up the numbers. Now, this is nothing like what we saw yesterday from Rivers, as DeBerg played Vinny Testaverde, who was a spry 35 years old, and DeBerg was 44 at the time, and they lost to the Jets 28-3. His number's not good. He was 9 of 20 for 117 yards and an interception. But we have seen a 44-year-old quarterback start after being out of the game for 5 years. And I also believe he had played as a backup in a couple of other games. So it wasn't like he was just, coming onto the field for the first time in 5 years to practice and then playing 3 or 4 days later on the road against a tough team in Seattle. And almost pulling it off. It's a story that we'll be talking about for years to come. Growing up, I remember the 1970 season when George Blanda was 43 years old, and he was coming off the bench to kick game-winning field goals and also replacing either an injured or ineffective Darryl LaMonica and leading the Raiders to wins. It was an unbelievable age story, and at 43, he was the offensive MVP of the AFC. We're too late in the game for that to happen to Phillip Rivers. But if there is, I don't even know if they still do this. They used to have a comeback player of the year. I think he's already cemented that, right? I don't see how you could give it to anybody else, even if he doesn't, play in the last 3 games. Even if he says, "Oh, that was fun, but my shoulder hurts and I got to go back home." He is the comeback player of the, I think, century right now, right? I mean, is there anything comparable to this? Steve DeBerg helped get his team to the Super Bowl. That's true as a backup, but I don't think you can overstate what we just saw yesterday with most people, including a lot of NFL people who had played with him, said, "Oh boy, I don't know. He's going to get hit." Here he's talking about getting hit. He liked getting hit. Crazy. This was kind of crazy from the weekend. Diego Pavia, who I really liked watching play. I really did. He was tremendous this year for Vanderbilt. They got 10 wins. They didn't make the playoff, but He was certainly in the discussion for the Heisman Trophy and was one of the 4 finalists for the award. It went to Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. They're an undefeated team. They're the number 1 seed in the playoff, and he had his Heisman moment in a game that looked lost at Penn State. He threw the game-winning touchdown pass. So I believe because of those things, he was going to win the Heisman Trophy. Based on eye test, I would have given it to Pavia. But they gave it to Mendoza, and it really wasn't that close. He got 2,362 points, 643 first-place votes, while Pavia only got 189 first-place votes, and he finished second. And Pavia, which really disappointed me, and I'm sure disappointed a lot of people with the Vanderbilt program, he put out on Instagram on Saturday night after coming up second place for the Heisman Trophy, F all the voters, and used a thumbs down emoji, but ... family for life. And he had a picture of his offensive linemen around him. Yesterday, he posted another statement saying he didn't handle this well. He said, being a part of the Heisman ceremony last night as a finalist was such an honor. As a competitor, just like in everything I do, I wanted to win. To be so close to my dream and to come up short was painful. I didn't handle those emotions well at all and did not represent myself the way I wanted to. I have much love and respect for the Heisman voters and the selection process. I apologize for being disrespectful. It was a mistake, and I'm sorry. Yes, that's probably about as good an apology as I think you could get. He said, Fernando Mendoza is an elite competitor and a deserving winner of the award. I have nothing but respect for his accomplishments, as well as the success of Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame, and Julian Sayin, who is the quarterback from Ohio State. He said, I've been doubted my whole life. Every step of my journey, I've had to break down doors and fight for myself because I've learned that nothing would be handed to me. One, he was disgraceful in that. 2, if he does have NFL dreams, those got knocked down a peg. I don't know if he's going to be a draft choice, but somebody's going to take a look at him. And to have handled it like he did, not good, even with the apology. That's probably going to be damaging to him. As for Fernando Mendoza, I was really amazed by this. He did his Heisman speech with no notes in front of him. You see him walk up to the podium. He looks straight into the audience. He never looks down. There are no notes to look down to. He went about 7 minutes. I'm going to play the last 3 minutes of the speech where he stumbled a couple of times, but clearly he had memorized this speech. Memorizing a 7-minute speech, let me tell you, somebody who talks for a living, that's not easy. That's not easy to do. And he did it well and was somewhat emotional at the end, but I thought very well-spoken and had really, I think, spent some time. You could say, well, that's kind of being presumptive, isn't it, that you're going to win the Heisman? Well, I guess if he didn't win the Heisman, there'd be no speech, of course. But when he did get the opportunity to speak, I think he delivered one of the most impressive Heisman speeches I've ever seen.
In 4th grade, I was a new kid on the Park football team. Didn't know a single teammate and was 4th on the depth chart. By midseason, I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to quit. My parents said I had to finish what I started. So I learned to embrace my team, and that is when I fell in love with football. By high school, I was chasing the first stages of pipe dream, to play in college. Then COVID hit, cut the season short. The result, I was only a 2-star prospect and only had 1 scholarship offer. But my family's unconditional love and belief kept me going and pushed me forward. These are the people who built me long before football did. Mommy, this is your trophy as much as it is mine. You've always been my biggest fan. You're my light. You're my why. You're my biggest supporter. Your sacrifices, courage, love, those have been my first playbook and the playbook that I'm going to carry through my side through my entire life. You taught me that toughness doesn't need to be loud. It can be quiet and strong. It's choosing hope. It's believing in yourself when the world doesn't give you much reason to. Together, you and I are rewriting what people think is possible. I love you. Papi, thank you for grounding me. Thank you for holding me accountable when it was always tough and reminding me that talent reminding me that talent means nothing without discipline and consistency. While I'm playing a team game, I'm learning to grow into a man, and you personify commitment. You picked all of us up whenever we've needed it most. To my little brother, Max, thank you for bringing joy to me and everyone around you. Your joy is infectious. Love you, bro. And for my grandparents, por el amor y sacrificio de mis padres y abuelos, lo quiero mucho. De todo mi corazón, de todas las gracias. This is an important one. I want every kid out there who feels overlooked, underestimated to know I was you. I was that kid too. I was in your shoes. The truth is, you don't need the most stars, hype, or rankings. You just need discipline, heart, and people who believe in you. And you need to believe in your own abilities. I hope this moment shows you that chasing your dreams are worth it, no matter how big or impossible they seem. God bless. Go Hoosiers. Thank you guys all.
No notes. That's good. That was really, really good. Really well done. Fernando Mendoza, first Indiana player to win the Heisman Trophy as Indiana goes into the playoff undefeated. And if you did not see the 60 Minutes report on Indiana last night, really good. Worth seeing. All right, coming up, more on the Commanders' win yesterday. I haven't been able to say that many times this year. And the wisdom of Shaq. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. So how much of a diehard Giants fan did you have to be yesterday to stick it out in what was a bad football game between two bad football teams in bad weather and watching each of them try to give it away? I mean, I guess you're happy if you're a Giants fan that they only have 2 wins with 3 games to go and right now are in the lead for the number 1 draft pick, whoever that happens to be, and maybe then not going to take Fernando Mendoza, who won the Heisman Trophy. Maybe they're satisfied with Jackson Dart, but we saw Jackson Dart being Jackson Dart yesterday. He knocked himself out of the game. It wasn't a concussion. He did come back in, but 2 weeks after coming back from a concussion, he was back in the blue tent. And they just can't have that kind of reckless play from the quarterback. And this is a real storyline now to watch for both those teams, because you didn't have Jaden Daniels on the field at all. He does not have concussion issues. That's I guess a good thing about this. But he has 4 injuries this year, and he's out. And the question is, are you going to see him play again this year? And down the road, is this going to be like a big, Theismann versus Sims kind of thing? Or is it going to be more of, we'd like to see Jackson Dart out there, but he's out with a concussion. And, Jaden hasn't quite learned how to protect himself that well, and he's out with X injury. You hope it's not, something real serious. I mean, that's about the only thing that you can take from it with 3 games to go, that if his season does end, he will be perfectly healthy to start next year. What you don't want is surgery, a Patrick Mahomes, God forbid, situation where Mahomes is now going to be rehabbing a torn ACL, and the start of next season for the Chiefs is in doubt. You can't not have your franchise quarterback and expect to compete. And that's really what this last part of the season, the only real drama left on it. They're going to be underdogs for all 3 games unless the Eagles don't have anything to play for in the last game of the season. And even though they will likely clinch the division if they win on Saturday, there could be something left for playoff position, depending on how the games shake out, whether they get a home game. So they're likely going to be needing to win the last game of the season, and I don't think the Commanders are going to be really in position to compete for them. And the big question is, what do you do with wherever that draft pick lands? It's at number 8 now. What do you do with it with a team that needs draft picks? They only have 5. They've made some trades, and they haven't paid off. The other thing to look for on this, and I'll be interested to see what Quinn says about this, is that Laramie Tunsil had 2 injuries yesterday, and one of them knocked him out for the game. which was, I think, an oblique injury, which is, a long-term recovery in baseball. I don't know if you could play left tackle with an oblique injury. I don't know. We'll find out. But if he can't play, you wonder if that will be something that they will consider whether to bring Jaden back for the last three. If you don't have your left tackle, and he has played so well that Cliff Kingsbury said a week ago that he has played beyond expectations, and they're going to have to pay him a lot of money. I don't know if Adam Peters wanted him to necessarily say that, but that's probably going to be the case. So that's really all that's left for me. I've been in favor of seeing him play, but if they don't play him, that'll be fine too. And I think there's internal debate going on in the organization, because after they lost 31-0 at Minnesota a week ago yesterday, Dan Quinn said, well, he could have come back in the game, but we were just off, and I didn't feel like it was a good idea to bring him back in. Then Monday, he has his news conference a week ago today, and he says, okay, we found out no structural damage, and we'll monitor him throughout the week to see how he can play. And then on Wednesday, before Wednesday's practice, because they're off on Tuesday, he goes, yeah, no structural damage, but he did tweak it, or he re-injured it, however he put it, and he's not going to play this week. And they said, well, what about the last three? He said, well, kind of we'll cross that bridge when they come to it. So now they get a win, which is a feel-good, but it's also, again, damaging for draft position. This is Quinn with kind of a sigh of relief. I think this was more of a relief win than anything else, and he put it properly in saying that it was harder than it should have been, but it was good to get it.
After the game, I had told them what was on my heart was this is a challenge that we've been in a long time, and long as I can remember. But if you were about to do something really hard, these are the type of guys I'd want to pick to do it with. It sucks that we're going through that, but the last 2 months have been extremely challenging. Like at the start of the season, I think we were 3-2. We kind of think about it in like quarters, like this game, and then so to drop 8, a couple gut punches, it's hard, man. And so you'd want guys in having your back in the circle that are like, I'm down for it. I saw that on practice on Wednesday and Thursday. It's 20-some degrees with the wind chill, and I said, we're playing December football, and like we're going out and we're padding and we're going, and there wasn't one pushback. And so I think it's because of reasons like that that make a winning locker room more meaningful. I'm happy for them. Like they needed that space to have that enjoyment together. I even told them, man, take a few extra minutes today. There's nothing like a winning locker room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's better if it's a winning locker room with still a chance to be in the playoffs, but they no longer have that. But they did some good things on the field, which he says is important.
It matters to be in these fight spends, in these moments, to go make a stop. There's nothing like these feelings of, winning time games, and to see us nail some of those, that's important for us. And we were going to get in the left-hand column by any means necessary, it felt like, and however long that took.
Yeah, and the worst fear I had of this game, I didn't really care. I was rooting for them to win. When you sit down, in my case, in my recliner, in my basement, and I watch the games, you get caught up in the game. And I've been watching this team since 1966. I'm a fan of the team, and I'm rooting for them to win. But if they lost the game, wouldn't be the worst thing either, because it keeps their draft position high, or higher than it is right now. But I did not want this in any way, and that was overtime. God's sakes. And, you're down, or they're up 15 points, and then the Giants score, and now it's 8. And the Giants have the ball and a chance to tie the game. It's not one of those cases like it's a 7-point game, and do they go for the win if they get the tying or the potential tying touchdown with an extra point at the end of the game? Do they go for it and try and win? The only thing they could do was go for 2, and if they go for 2 and they get it, they're still playing in these miserable conditions. So the last thing I wanted was overtime in this game, and fortunately for me, it didn't come to that. They were able to make a play at the end of the game to keep the Giants and get them off the field, and were able to knee it out. And the positives that you take from this is that they did get some performances from guys who may or may not be able to help them next year. Now, they got Jalen Lane returning a punt for a touchdown for the second time this year. He's a draft pick. That's a hit, looks like, so far for Adam Peters. He's the first team Washington player. It's three different names, but first Washington player to get 2 punt returns for a touchdown since Brian Mitchell did it in 1994. The fact that they were picking up these street free agent guys, who knows how much they'll help them next year. But when I saw number 34 out there on the field, I wasn't familiar with him. His name is Hamilton. It's Alex Hamilton. It's not Alex Hamilton. See, I knew I was going to do that. Not Alexander Hamilton. His name is, and where did I put his name? Oh, it's Antonio Hamilton. Antonio Hamilton, who made some big plays yesterday, including the one to close it out. And despite Gronk calling Bill Krosky Merritt, despite calling him Bill Kosky Smith, he performed well, which he had not done in a while. He had a great start to the season, 82 yards and a touchdown in the Week 1 win against the Giants. He had a pretty good game in their last win previous to this, where he scored a touchdown against the Chargers. But he had some games where he was averaging like 2 yards a carry. And to come out like he did yesterday, 18 carries for 96 yards, including the 16-yard touchdown, I think there's real hope that he could be their number one back next year, although I think that they will draft somebody and maybe even sign him back in free agency. Chris Rodriguez was unable to go yesterday because of a groin injury. So those are the kind of things that you hope to hang your hat on for next year. But there's going to be a lot of changes. They have to find a new tight end to replace Zach Ertz. I can't imagine they bring him back. Bobby Wagner, who just got his MBA from Howard, is probably going to go off into the business world, and should, because every time they isolate a back on him, it's bad news. But, the foundation is always going to be there as long as you have number 5. And you got number 5 on a rookie contract again next year. So next year is still a go-for-it year, but it's not the kind of thing where you can say, okay, we're going to mortgage some future to pick up Marshawn Lattimore because he's going to make a huge difference. That turned out to be a bad move, a disaster. So you got to hit on some of those, and you got to hit on more draft picks, but you take a guy like Krosky Merritt in the 7th round, and it looks like he's going to be a big addition for you next year, as well as he was this year. Also, Mikey Sanderstill in his 2nd year, getting an interception yesterday, and having the attitude to keep this team where it's in a situation where they could have packed it in and didn't.
I could sit here and feel bad, feel sorry for what we've been going through, or I can, embrace it and, just say, like, how can I help? Continue bringing positivity to my teammates, continue bringing positivity, even just myself. Like I said, this game is a game that is very fun. And, no matter what, our season looks like, I'm never going to allow that fun to be taken away, because that's why I play this game, for the fun of it. And I love doing this. So I don't really care about the fact. Yes, I care. But what I'm saying is the situation that I'm in isn't going to determine what I do on a daily basis, because it's part of it, and you just have to learn how to grow through it.
Yep, Sanderstill, a keeper, and that's a number 2 second-round draft pick the year if they took the draft pick that they took after Jaden Daniels, starting to pay off. A couple of other things. Cowboys lose last night. Good. They lose to the Vikings 34-26, and the concern about J.J. McCarthy, he seems to be coming around. He broke free on a goal line bootleg play in the second quarter, and then did the gritty dance, which Justin Jefferson likes to do after he scores touchdowns. He holds the ball low, and he said, I did it in practice. I was told not to do it. So just me being who I am, it's like, oh, now I'm more enticed to do it. I don't know if you want to do that as the leader of the team, the quarterback, but he says if it's open, obviously, you get into the end zone no matter what, and be coachable and do what my coach says, so I'll definitely get a minus for that. I asked if he was okay getting a minus. He said yes and no. And I would have thought that his coach, O'Connell, would have been more forgiving on this, but Kevin O'Connell was not. He called the 29-yard touchdown pass to T.J. Hawkinson spectacular and praised J.J. for finding completions when they were available. He says, we're building up to it a little bit with more experience, a little bit more time on task, a little bit of understanding of what playing quarterback in the NFL is. I think he's hopefully learned a lesson tonight if we can be explosive and have some opportunities as the game goes on by just continuing to throw completions. But when asked about the gritty dance, he said it was entertaining. I guess we are in the entertainment business, but I would have preferred him to show that 40 time he likes to talk about having to never run, his 40 coming out of college, which was unique to say the least. But a guy who once ran a fast 40 couldn't throw it very well. I can probably understand why our quarterbacks are choosing to do it these days. He said he would not classify the dance as special. So J.J. McCarthy starting to play better, but his coach would like him to act more like a professional. This kind of got lost in the weekend. I think it's worth mentioning. Paul Wiggin, who was the coach of Stanford for the Band is on the Field play, which cost Stanford an opportunity to go to a bowl game at the last game of the 1982 season, and Cal won on that multilateral play, 25-20. The Band is on the field. Paul Wiggin was the coach at Stanford. He's passed away at the age of 91, was a terrific player in the NFL after starring at Stanford, fourth-round pick by the Browns, 1947, played his 11-year career there, got 2 Pro Bowl selections, helped the Browns win the 1964 title, and then became an assistant with the 49ers. And that is kind of a pipeline back and forth to Stanford because Bill Walsh did that. In fact, he had 2 stints at Stanford as the head coach. But Wiggin was an assistant with the 49ers 68 to 74. Then he became coach of the Chiefs in 1975, replacing Hank Stram. Got fired in 77, went to New Orleans, became a defensive coordinator for a couple of years, then went back to Stanford in 1980, where he inherited a John Elway who was recruited by Bill Walsh. And Bill Walsh wasn't there when he was the coach or when he was the quarterback. But you have for 3 seasons John Elway, 1980, 81, and 82, and you don't make a bowl game. Amazing. But he was beloved for his time in Minnesota. Became the defensive line coach in 1985 and essentially stayed the rest of the time with the team. So rest in peace, Paul Wiggin. And sometimes people who are very, very successful in football or any other field have one specific thing on their resume which is kind of unfair. It's not his fault that it happened, but it did happen, and it's one of the most famous plays in college football history, and Paul Wiggin was, unfortunately for him, on the wrong end of it. That's a wrap for me. Bram is coming up next, and I'll see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m.